Hey guys, Coach Carly here with your mobility for April 30th. We are actually going to focus on our hips a little bit today. So we are going to do a little bit for the hip flexors, hamstrings, and quads because those are the muscles that cross the hip joint. And then we're going to add in a few specifically for the joint capsule and stretching it out. And we'll finish with the mobilizations today. We are going to go with 1 minute holds today, 2 times through the first part, the stretching, and then we'll jump into those mobilizations where we'll focus more on reps rather than an actual hold. So our first one, we're going to start in that kneeling position. Okay, we want to focus on our right hip flexor here. So in order to make that happen, we're going to have to lean forward. But when we lean forward, we're going to make sure we're not overarching our back, because all that does is allows you to escape stretching the hip flexor actually. So what I want you to focus on is squeezing that butt. And if we squeeze the butt, what happens is that where that hip flexor attaches up top here gets pulled apart from where it attaches down here and allows us to stretch. Then while holding that position, you're going to lean forward, and we've got 1 minute hold here. With every exhale, just trying to lean that whole torso as a unit forward. If you need a pillow under that kneecap, that's perfectly fine. All right, guys, from here, you're going to stay in this same kneeling position, okay? But what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on that left hamstring. So I want you to straighten out that left leg out in front, and you're just going to lean those hips straight back till you feel a nice stretch in the back of your left leg if you're in the same kneeling position as I am. You want to make sure that that knee is nice and flat. We're going to go for 1 minute. If you need to sit your hips back on your heels, that's fine. If you feel a little bit off balance in this upright position. All right, guys, we're going to come back up into that kneeling position. So we're bending that left leg. Now, this is a time where you may need a pillow under that right knee. We are staying in the same kneeling position, but what we're going to do is we're going to grab our foot and pull it up towards our butt so that we can get a nice quadricep stretch. And we've got 1 minute here. Keep that torso nice and tall. Don't let it lean forward. If you lean that torso forward, again, that's going to shorten that quad and lead to a less effective stretch. Again, we're not letting that back arch forward like this. We're squeezing that butt up into that tall kneel position. All right, guys, slowly lower yourself out of that position. We're headed to kneeling on the other side. So now my left leg's going to be down, my right leg's going to be up. We are going to lean ourselves forward, again, making sure not to overarch that back. We want to capture that left hip flexor. The nice lean forward. We've got 1 minute here. Nice job with every exhale. Again, moving that torso and pelvic unit forward. Get more of a stretch in that hip flexor. All right, let's relax out of that stretch, staying in that same kneeling position. We're now going to straighten out that right leg, point those toes up towards the ceiling, and we're just going to lean our torso forward so we feel a nice stretch in that hamstring, keeping that knee nice and straight. Again, if you need to sit back so that your butt is actually on your heels, you can do so if you can't maintain balance in this position. The other thing that'll really help too is if you take that leg a little bit out to the side, to your right, it'll give you a little bit wider base of support. But realize when you do that, you're changing the angle of the stretch. So you may feel it a little bit more on the inside of that hamstring rather than the outside. All right, let's go ahead and bend that knee up to that kneeling position. We're going to grab on to that opposite foot, so my left foot in this case, for a nice quad stretch. We've got 1 minute here. Torso is staying tall. Should feel a nice stretch down the front of that thigh. All right, slowly release that back down. We're coming out of that kneeling position. So our next two stretches we often do as a warm-up, and that's the shin box. So my feet are going to start right out in front of me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going towards the right side. So my legs are going to lay down towards the right. So my right hip is externally rotated. My left hip is internally rotated. And we're just going to sit in this shin box position for a minute. The more you lean over, the more demands it creates on the hips. If this bothers you in this position, you can also lean back to take a little bit of pressure off of those hip capsules. I personally like to keep my torso tall because that's where I find myself getting enough of a stretch, whereas over here I feel a little bit of a pinching. Again, we do not want pinching. If you need to, you can also take this pillow and put it under the hip that is internally rotated. So in this case, my left. because it'll take a little bit of pressure off as well. All right, let's switch sides. So now my left is going externally rotated, my right's going internally rotated. I like that pillow there just because I lack a little bit of hip internal rotation. I'm sit nice and tall. We've got 1 minute here. Hope everyone gets out and enjoys the day today. I think it's supposed to be 75 degrees. Nice job. Let's release ourselves out of that. What we're going to do now, the last stretch in the cycle, is going to be a butterfly stretch. So those feet are going to go together. We're going to drive those knees down towards the ground, and we're going to lean ourselves forward. We have 1 minute here. If you can, bring those forearms down in front of those shins. You'll get a little bit more of an exaggerated stretch. All right, let's relax out of that stretch. We're going back to the beginning to start over. So we're going into that kneeling position with our right leg down on the pillow and our left leg up. Starting with our butt squeeze and our lean forward to get that nice hip flexor stretch. We've got 1 minute here. Nice job, guys. You want to find that comfort spot between where I feel a good stretch and ouch, that's painful. We don't want to be at that ouch, that's painful stage. Alrighty, let's go ahead and come out of that stretch. We're going to straighten that left leg, keeping the knee straight. Lean ourselves slightly forward. We've got 1 minute here. Nice hamstring stretch. Make sure those feet are pointed up towards the ceiling. Every exhale, just trying to lean that torso a little bit further over that left leg. All right, let's bend that left leg back up into that kneel position. We're gonna go ahead and start onto that quad stretch. So I'm taking my right hand, grabbing my right foot, keeping my torso tall. Now, if this really, really bothers your kneecap, even after you put a pillow underneath it, go ahead and switch this one up and do a standing quad stretch. Which would be standing, holding on to something, and just grabbing on to that leg. Whichever feels more comfortable. Again, we don't want any pain in your knee with this one. All right, let's slowly relax out of that one. It's time to switch that kneeling position. So left leg's gonna be down now, right leg's gonna be up. We're gonna start by squeezing that butt and then leaning that torso forward for this nice hip flexor stretch. Alrighty, let's relax out of that. And we're gonna straighten that right leg. Remember, we can bring it out to the side if we need a little bit more balance. Toes up towards the ceiling, and we're gonna lean forward. That hamstring stretch. All right, go ahead and bend that right knee, bring yourself back up. We're gonna grab hold of that left foot with that left hand for this last quad stretch. We've got 1 minute. Remember, if this is really, really uncomfortable on your knee, you can always do that standing quad stretch that we talked about on the other side. All right, let's go ahead and relax out of that quad stretch. We're coming down into that seated position for a little bit of a shin box. So remember, we're starting up, shins are vertical. We're gonna go to our right first. So right hip, external rotation, left hip, internal rotation. If you need that pillow, go ahead and place that pillow underneath that hip. Torso tall or lean forward, depending on how you feel. Or if you want a little bit less aggressive, and to take that pinching away, you can lean back. We've got 1 minute here. Alrighty, let's switch sides. So coming back to neutral in the center, and then we're gonna lean to the left. So left hip external rotation, right hip internal rotation. We've got 1 minute here. Nice job, guys. Let's relax out of that stretch. You can go ahead and get rid of that pillow. We're gonna come into that butterfly stretch. This is our last stretch in the sequence, and then we're going to move on to those mobilizations. So feet are together. We're driving those knees down towards the side. If you can, try to bring those forearms in front of those shins. Make sure we're breathing here, keeping that neck nice and relaxed, looking down at those feet, not straight ahead. That's going to put a little bit too much tension in the neck. All right, let's go ahead and relax out of that stretch. So what I'd like to finish with is just some stuff to kind of more target the hip joint itself. So we're going to actually start on our hands and knees. Okay. So in this hands and knees position, what we're going to do is we're going to start with that right leg. And we've done these before. They're going to be the internal and external rotation. And what I like about doing it in this position is it's weight bearing. So you have weight coming from the floor up into the hip. So what you're going to do is you're going to lift, slightly lift that right foot up off the ground. You're going to rotate it over the left leg and then all the way out to the side. So we're going through the whole range of motion here. We're going to do 20 on this side and then 20 on the other side. Nice, slow, and controlled. This does not have to be fast. No pinching should be felt during any of this. If you do have some pinching, make sure you stop before you get into that area that pinches. All right, guys, once you have 20 of those, we're going to go into a hip extension mode here. So we're going to come back up into that kneeling position. If you need the pillow under your knee, you're more than welcome to. What we're going to do is keep that torso tall, and we're going to lean forward like we were doing that hip flexor stretch, but everything leans forward as a unit, including we're going to bend that left knee a little bit more, pelvis and torso go forward, okay? We're going to do 20 per side, and you're going straight forward, not at a diagonal. Okay, let's switch sides if you haven't already. It's okay to spend a couple seconds at that end range in that forward position. Really, really nice work today, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day and you do get to spend some time outside because it's supposed to be gorgeous. And I will see you guys tomorrow for our next mobility session. If you have something specifically that you want me to use in this stretching, or you have an area of the body that you feel is really restricted and you want me to incorporate a little bit more stretching for that area, please just send me a message or get in contact with Coach Jess or Coach Alex, because we can definitely make that happen. Hope you guys are all staying healthy.